MEERG/predecessors, not for if some other funding body is funded. No, just these.
Okay. So,
Can I just ask another question?
sure.
So you said on that one the deadline for the extension was September 3rd, but what were the deadlines for round 2?
We're going to come on to that.
Yeah.
We're just, it's a good question. We've just,
You're on the right track.
we've touched on it, we've dealt with the categories, and now we'll just kind of talk about type of project very briefly to give you an idea, and then we'll talk about the process, deadlines, etc. And so, you guys probably have a bit better idea than people not in MEERG, but we'll just make this very clear. Because often we meet people and it's unclear the difference between an OLT project and maybe an ARC project. And they are quite different, the way they're framed, the language they're written in, the style of the grant application is different. So the kinds of projects, in a very kind of pithy way, just to give you the nuts and bolts that OLT fund, are ones that are focused on enhancing student learning. So it's got to have some impact on student learning. And it's got to be broad enough to affect some change in the sector. It can't just be focused on Monash. It's got to reach out beyond and have a national focus.
Can I just stop there? We've had in the past some people trying to put in full proposals for single institution application. It does say in the application guidelines that they do accept them, but very few of them get up. You'd have to have a very strong case. We thought the one particular one that went through up last year or the year before last actually had pleaded their case really, really well. It wasn't funded. So there's not that many. When you look on the resources on the OLT website, there are very few that are single institutions. So where possible, collaborations.
Yeah.
When you say single institution, you mean
Monash.
Yes, sorry. You mean collaboration with another university? Can you collaborate with the TAFE sector?
You can, but they will want another. There's a list of eligible institutions that OLT require. There are projects that have TAFE involved, but you would also be looking at another institution from.
But for that pathways.
Yeah,
It's the pathways.
the pathways one.
The pathway, yeah.
And it gives some context because it's
Yes.
a very low socioeconomic disadvantage area. And the links are with TAFEs, not with other universities, because you can't even get them to universities.
Well, maybe the C. Yeah, the reference group we could.
There's different ways of collaborating.
But that would be acceptable to
Yeah.
cross into that part of the sector?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could I just say I put a full project in when I worked at another institution around a similar pathways sort of project. It was Deacon at Your Doorstep thing, which was not funded, and the only negative feedback was that it would have worked better as a multi-institution project.
And when they meant institution, they meant another university?
Yes, yeah,
Another
other
eligible
universities.
institution.
It was incredibly frustrating, and we had really good advice that this would work as a single institution project, but that was the feedback.
The other place would be NCVR.
Yeah.
NCVR, that's more of a TAFE funding base.
Okay.
It's another funding body.
Yeah.
But they're all the sorts of things that we can.
We can help you with that if you want to.
Awesome.
Yeah. If you want to apply to NCVR, we can help you.
So the improved pathways, not just into Monash degrees, but into degrees across a number of universities. So that's where you get your, their partners. You want partners from several universities. So I imagine your application was getting students into Deakin.
No, we'd very carefully written this as something where we're going to design a transferable model that would work at other places.
Okay.
Lots of consultation across the sector. We had CEOs of TAFEs on our reference group. That would have worked better as a multi-institution project.
And that's what I'm saying. We've seen such strong applications for single institutions where you think, yes, and they've taken on board the feedback. This particular one had taken on board exactly the feedback that the ALTC had given them, strengthened their application to include that feedback, and got knocked back again. So
It's almost a compliance criteria.
yes, even though, and I think eventually they're going to have to change change the application.
Would you say that in the review of the ALTC there was criticism of tokenistic collaboration?
Yes. Absolutely. And we're very mindful of that when people come to us and talk about collaboration. It's very, very important that it's not collaboration just for collaboration's sake. You need to be able to demonstrate in your proposal that they are actively engaging in the work that you are doing right from the word go.
So there's some strategic reason why you've got another university there. But when my first day on the job, I asked Marnie before she left what kind of projects, and the first thing she said was multi-institution. She didn't even blink. So that's, it's almost a given. I think it make it so hard for yourself, otherwise it's hard enough. And you just, let's just be smart with that. And that can take time, building up the collaborations. If you don't have active working collaborations with two other units, then that can take time to build up. You might have a collaboration that's not quite appropriate with people that you know at another unit.
Is there a number of projects that the university sends through, and are you the gatekeepers for that number?
We're not the gatekeepers for the amount that's sent through, but we'll talk to you about the process near the end, and I'll explain to you how it works within Monash.
Do you have, sometimes, when you apply for ARC, the research officers give you sort of good examples of grants that have been successful? Do you?
All of that.
Okay, so
we're going to talk about that as well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
As well. So we'll just run through the type of project we'll get onto. I think that maybe the more nuts and bolts you want to know. So tangible outcomes, that's another very important thing to think about. It's got to be what you're getting from your project, what actual things that you can hold are you getting from your project, what is the physical output from your project as well. It's got to be, it's not enough to do the project and have a paper, an academic paper at the end of it. You've got to have some more, that can be one of the outputs, but it can't just be that. It's got to be something more, like are you guidelines, resources, what are you building capacity for the leadership for excellence? Instigate a series of leadership training events. What there's more that you can do with this, and then really want to see that. So we touched on collaborative, so it's not collaboration state, but strategic collaboration. A good thing, a smart thing to do is acquaint yourself with things that have been done before. Not necessarily on discipline, but around the same things that you might be thinking about. There is a full list of previously funded projects on the OLT website. It's quite easy to access and find quickly if potentially repeating something that's been done before. And the final point, again, is key to these applications is having a strategy for dissemination. And dissemination is not just giving information out. Again, do your research, write a paper, and that's your dissemination. It's really building in a whole strategy of how you can bring people on board, who may be the early adopters, who may be the users of what you want to produce, and bring them right up front, so you're not just doing a project and knocking on the door at the end and saying, voila, here we have our beautiful resources. And they say, well, why didn't you tell me about this 2 years ago? We could have helped. But it's really bringing these people in so that they can help you find your project and really benefit your project. And there are a number of ways of doing that. They don't have to be direct collaborators. They could be in a reference group as a way that people bring in TAFEs or companies or other non-eligible institutions. So there's smart ways to do that, and it's all the context you're working in really defines that. So that's why we go to give you the broad spiel now, and then work with you on an individual basis to find out what's going to work best for you.
Okay. Now this is where we come in. To answer your question, yes, we are the gatekeepers for all grants and awards in Monash University. I'll tell you the reason why that happened. In the past, there was the ability to apply directly to the ALTC. Quality was low, information was not being disseminated to the relevant faculties about these people. It was just a mishmash. The previous CEO, Carol Nickel, came to Marnie at some stage and said to her, okay, what can we do to better improve the quality of applications, not only coming out of Monash but all institutions. So we suggested that there be a gatekeeper at every institution. that provides institutional support for all grants and awards. So the Pro-Vice Chancellor Learning and Teaching is the institutional, is the person that signs off on all grants and awards within Monash, and the Promoting Excellence team is what you have to give, who you have to give them to for us to be able to get that institutional support. So if you go directly to the OLTC, you will get rejected. So it has to come much the same as ARC has to go through MRO. It's no different. OLT just comes through the Promoting Excellence team. So with that having been said, once we instituted that, the quality improved out of sight from all institutions. That means that the people that were in the know were seeing them to be able to check for quality, and that's happening, and it was really good. So they come through to us. Now, in saying that, we are not responsible for saying yes or no to your applications. Our Promoting Excellence team are simply here to provide you with guidance and assistance with your proposals. We can give you all the tricks and tips of trying to frame them so that you use all the right jargon that the OLTC like, but the Monash have brought together the Monash Educational Grants Committee, which is a group of Monash staff from all faculties across all disciplines, and they will be the ones that will assess your application. We have also Monash, I'll go to that in a minute, but they're the ones that say yes or no to your application. There's yes, no's and revise and resubmits. They will give really good feedback to your application. They may say no, that happened to actually all but one in the round just gone, didn't get through without revisions. There was only one that got through, that got institutional support straight away. The rest all went back for revisions. And although those people weren't happy with having to do extra work, they all agreed that the feedback provided by the committee was very worthwhile and strengthened their application and made their applications better. They're not there to provide barriers, they're there to provide, giving you the best possible chance. You know as well as we know that it's very difficult to get grants up, whether it be OLT or ARC, so to give your application the best possible chance, that's the role of the grants committee. And we are observers in that meeting, so we get to hear their feedback, which we then in turn will give on to you, okay? But we don't say yes or no, but they can say yes or no. So all of those applications, most of those applications, as I said, were strengthened, and they've all been submitted, so that's the role. As we said before, face-to-face meetings, emails, telephone conferences, Skype, whatever you want, we're available to travel everywhere. So we do go to Berwick, Gippsland, Peninsula, Clayton, everywhere. So, and as Matt said, the earlier you get an idea to us, the earlier we can work with you on these applications. They are not easy. 10 pages is a lot of work, plus all the thingy attachments that you have to get. It takes time, and the earlier you come to us, the easier it is. Because we can also, we get a lot of applications. We've actually stopped a lot of them coming through at the last minute. We get the occasional one or two that come through at the last minute, and they're just not in the right structure for the OLT. So there's a lot of work, and a lot of those get rejected. We say there's too much work, let's apply for the second round. So the earliest you can get to us, and it can be, like you said, just an idea. We've got an expression of interest form. I'll go through the resources in a minute, that you can send to us. It's only 2 pages, and it gets you thinking about how the OLTC, I've got to stop saying OLTC, the OLT think. So you can also check, as I said, with budgets. Budgets can be quite daunting for a lot of people that haven't tried to get everything they want in $220,000. So we can help you with that. You know, a lot of people will give us the budget, say we've run out of money. You know, so we can help you with the budget side of it, because it is a bit of creative accounting that goes along with them to make sure you get what you need out of a project. We also have mentors.
Yes, with the budget,
yeah.
Are there add-ons for these budgets at the higher level?
Yeah, all of the OLT only allow 28% on costs.
Right.
So Monash is now 39.4% on costs. So,
and I've heard on the grapevine there's another faculty 15%.
Yeah, see, this is why now we are when we get proposals coming through, we like the BDMs in each of the faculties to have these run past them as well. We've had requests from the business development managers in faculties to make sure that they get CC'd in a copy too, because as you said, there's a lot of costs that the faculty requires, and if you've got, with OLT projects, even though you're asking for $220,000, they like you to demonstrate that there's support from your institution by way of in-kind support. And that in-kind support, you're going to have to get signed off by your faculty. If you've got teaching relief that's going on there, if you've got in-kind support from project team members, you might have fraction 0.1 that someone's putting in kind. The faculties need to know all of that for when they're doing their budgets. We've had some successful grants that have gone up with the faculties have gotten very cross because there's been X amount of dollars in kind that they weren't made aware of and they hadn't factored into their budget. So the business development managers like us now to run it by them so that they're aware of it. They're not, in the most part, they're not going to say no, but they need to be made aware that if you do get these grants up, they have to factor that in. So we do also provide some limited mentor for people that have got grants up that you can have a chat with them and see, and we've also got model applications from previous grants that we can send to you. And as I said, we are the people that provide institutional endorsement letters for you if your grant is deemed acceptable by the grants committee. There are also a lot of, the OLT brought in the requirement that not just institutional support letters are required, you are also required to have support letters for all of your project team members and all of your collaborating institution project team members. So that can be the thing that takes up the most amount of time. But it is simply a 1 or 2 liner. But if you're made aware of that right from the word go, you can have those things in place. And we've had some big projects get up last year that had probably 15, 16 letters of support in them. So, and it can take the time. But again, it's OLT's way of making sure that everybody who needs to know does know about this project. And that's where it comes from. And it means that you have to be responsible in your faculty to get your line manager or your head of department or your dean to be made aware of these projects so there's no surprises. So, but all of that can take time. But, you know, we've had proposals get up. It's not insurmountable. Just, we will help you with a lot of those processes. So, on our website, which I'll go through briefly in a minute, we have our expressions of interest. This is where you can just put some general thoughts down on paper. It's got special sections in it that draw your mind to different priorities that the OLT have, and it's 2 pages. You can discuss with us any project ideas over the telephone, as we've said, and then we can help you develop the full proposals using the application guide. We have an application guide template, so that goes through the whole of the proposal for you and draws you into the different sections that you need to think about and all the different things within that to turn your mind to that. We have internal deadlines, which I'll go through in a minute. As I've said to you, they're assessed by the Education Grants Committee. There's revisions on proposals using feedback from the committee, and then there's the upload to the OLT portal by the OLT deadline. We can also upload on your behalf too. The portal can be a little bit difficult to navigate, so please don't feel under any pressure whatsoever. If you have the required documentation, I've done it a million times, I can do it for you. So please don't feel like you are under any pressure for that. Deadlines. For round 2, expressions of interest, 15th of June. If you have had a previous, we've got a couple of people that have already seen us from round 1 and we know about their projects, you don't need to repeat that process for round 2. As long as we're aware of it and we're working with you, then the expression of interest is not necessary. A couple of people come to us, do we have to do this all over again? No, you don't. We can go help them refining their proposal for round 2. We've got full proposals are then due on the 29th of June. Now you'll see that there's a fair bit of time between the 29th of June and the 13th of July when the Grants Committee meet. The 29th of June internal deadline is mainly for people that we don't talk to leading up to that time. We require in the Promoting Excellence team at least a week to go through proposals that we haven't seen before to help develop, but really we've seen it before and it's not enough time. You need to be coming to us before then. I will send off the applications a week before the deadline to the grants committee to give them time. There's voluminous amounts of paperwork that they have to read, so they require a week from us. Then, of course, you'll see that there's about 3 weeks between. We will get feedback to you on the 14th, or the very latest, the 15th of July, and then you've got time then to revise. They may be small amendments, they might be quite large amendments, revisions. So, but it still gives you enough time to make. And also, you might still be chasing all those letters of support during this time. The Grants Committee don't demand that you have your complete package all together by that time. What they want to see is your proposal, your 10-page proposal. All your extra documents that you're madly chasing, they don't need to see. They want to, it's our job to make sure that they get uploaded to the portal, but as far as the Grant Committee is concerned, they just want to see your 10-page proposal. They want to know what you want to do. Okay?
The proposal has to be pretty complete. We saw a number in the previous round that were not, were obviously not complete, and that's a red flag to say not this flag. So it's got that, put your energy on completing, making sure that everything is
I mean, there's always fine-tuning to budgets and things like that, you know, that are not, it just needs, I would say if you've got everything like 95% completed on your proposal, then the Grants Committee want to see all the important bits filled in. But budgets and things, we can work with you. We know what needs to go in those budgets, and the Grants Committee are happy for us to finalise those before upload. And then, of course, upload happens on the 3rd of August. There is no flexibility with that deadline. I need to tell you this because we had someone that tried to upload it in the last round the day after the deadline closed. Okay, and there was a lot of animosity around that. There is no flexibility regarding this.
What happens if there's a crash?
Well, then that's their responsibility. But I also say to people, if you are ready to upload, the moment you are ready to upload, get rid of it. Don't wait until the 3rd of August. You can imagine the traffic. Can I tell you a very funny story? Well, it wasn't funny at the time, but I can laugh about it now. Last year, Monash server went down on the day of upload. And I was uploading documents, and in this office, everybody crashed except my computer. I was the only one in the whole office that still had access to the internet. So someone was looking after me that day because I was mad, and I was too scared to close any window on my computer. I was just mad, not getting out of this thing. I thought, oh my God. And if that had happened and mine had gone down, it would have been our responsibility. Don't ever leave things till chance. Sometimes you can't help it because you're waiting on that last minute letter or something. But if you've got your application complete, upload it before the day. But yeah, if the system, they had moved over from the ALTC to the OLT this round, so there was a lot of question marks whether the portal was actually going to work or not. But it did, and they survived. So I went up to OLT last week and we had a laugh about the fact that it actually survived the first upload. So,
Do you take responsibility? I had an example where I put it into a grant into the research office.
yeah.
And there's similar requirements. Put it into the research office, and they will upload, deliver, etc., etc. And I hadn't received a letter back saying thank you, we received your application. So I followed it up, and it hadn't been sitting on someone's desk. It hadn't been uploaded.
We would never allow that to happen to you. No, I can't answer for the MRO. I can't answer for the MRO, but we make sure that if you have asked us, that's what I'm saying, if you haven't done it, we can lead a horse to water, but we can't make it drink. So, but if you ask us, I will absolutely make sure that is my responsibility. I'm the institutional contact officer for Monash University. I am the conduit between Monash and the OLT. So I know the processes. So if you give me the responsibility of doing that, it will get done. So no, that wouldn't happen with us, and hasn't happened with us. Touch wood. So. But if the portal crashes, then that's their responsibility, not ours. But I am a lot more mindful of the fact of what happened to me last year, that it could have well gone very pear-shaped if my computer had shut down that day. So, just things to, but if you're ready to go, just upload it. Oh, now, this is, I just want to briefly touch on this. It's all well and good for you to get these wonderful grants. You need to be able to make them count against your learning and teaching research, okay? In the past, that hasn't happened. Marnie worked very strongly with the Associate Deans, with what's Edwina's title? Deputy Vice Chancellor Research. In the past, learning and teaching hasn't been categorised as research, okay? I don't know why, it was before my time, but Marnie worked very hard in consultation with anyone that mattered at the MRO and with Edwina Cornish to make sure that every time you are successful with an OLT grant, that you can get it classified as Category 2 research and it will go on your ropes, okay? What we had to do was work very closely with the MRO because they were getting these applications and saying, no, these are research. We're not classifying them. And up until 12 months ago, that was being accepted. So we have now developed a herd seed checklist in consultation with the MRO so that when you are successful with your grants, you have to provide a copy of the funding agreement, the herd seed checklist, and then you submit that to the MRO with your usual cover sheet and they will automatically classify you as Category 2 research.
We've been encouraged to submit our cover sheets when you submit the application because then that is apparently now counted on ropes as your efforts. I mean, I can think of how many applications I've put in of which are 5–10% successful. But if you put in your cover sheets, that comes up on your ropes and then you might put in 10
That's actually very
applications
interesting. We might look into that because we've developed a set of workshops that we're going to start rolling out over the next few weeks that talk about writing awards and grants for promotion. So we might have a look at that, and I'll have a talk to Dennis Batson and see if that's something that they'd be looking at. Because if it is being recorded on your ropes, even the attempts, that obviously would help in any promotion applications. That you've got to demonstrate the fact that you're actually. So thank you for that. I'll definitely have a
talk to
talk to
Dennis that I was talking to.
Excellent.
Historically, I would put them in and get a few and I'd forget about the applications that were dead and didn't go there. And Dennis reminded me, someone said something to me late last year and I thought, no. And I put this application in maybe a month ago for a grant application and Dennis said, oh, don't forget to do your cover sheet. And I said, well, why? What if I'm not? He said, well, it doesn't matter. It counts towards effort.
The other thing also, because we just had a meeting with Research and Revenue, and what they said is once you've written your application and even if you haven't heard the outcome, you put in the cover sheet, and if they think that yes, it's classified as research, they will classify it as research and they will create a fund for you, and that fund will sit there pending. So as soon as you get your money, they'll go, yep, that fund's pending, we'll make it approved and you can put your money in, rather than have to wait for the process of waiting for the funding body to say money's been confirmed, then go through it to be classified, and then there's a delay of 3 months before
and it can take ages.
And it takes a long time. So I didn't know, I only found this out when we had our meeting with Research and Revenue. So
you will make sure
about that step.
So what you do is
they can actually go ahead to get the cost under fund. That's brilliant,
and
because that can take a long time.
They classify it and that'll take a few months, maybe a month, a couple of weeks. In the meantime, the funding body's deciding whether they're going to give you money, but if the research office says this is a research project, it is classified as research, we'll create a fund and we'll create that fund as pending, and then as soon as you know you get the money, that fund will come into existence. If you don't get the money, then it'll just disappear.
Yeah, you can
so
ask for it
there's
to
also
be
a fast step there. If you go to your hub, and I have a very strong relationship with my hub since we've set up hubs, and we've had a messy one come through, and I just rang my hub and said that I have a cost centre and phone number, and that was set up.
Yes,
I'm still waiting.
Yes.
Still waiting for the research office to do their thing.
Oh,
it's
okay.
already set up.
It's already set up.
Yeah.
Okay. And
so
then,
what I'm saying is you can set the cost centre up via the hub before the research office.
That's very interesting, and that's good to know, especially the bit about having the cover sheets count as your attempts.
Yep.
Because as we know, they don't all get funded.
As soon as you hit the submit button,
do your cover sheet.
Yeah.
Because we've been doing it once they've been funded, and it has taken time. Okay, now I'll go onto the website. I'll get out of this because I'm going to show you the links of how to get onto our resources, because we are going to look at redeveloping the OPDCLT website. It's a little bit hard to navigate, but don't worry, I'll go through this and show you. Our team, as I said, you've met Joy, myself and Matt. Anisha has other commitments this afternoon, and we have Rachel Saffer, who's returning from maternity leave in 2 weeks, so time. So